Hello all of my crafty people, and welcome back to another video in my Learn Your Sewing Machine installment. Today we are going to be working on the Janome Skyline S9 again, and today is the day. We are actually going to go over how to set up the machine for machine embroidery. I know there's been a lot of people watching my other videos, and I just want to say thank you so much. I've been kind of amazed how many people have responded to those videos. So if you are new here to the channel, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe for tons more sewing machine videos, beginner sewing videos, and everything like that. So today is the day we're going to be going over machine embroidery on this machine. Now, I do want to say we're just going to be setting up this particular sewing machine for machine embroidery. I'm not going to be showing you how to do machine embroidery because that is its own video series in and of itself. Machine embroidery is definitely its own hobby in my opinion. And so I just kind of want to start off this video. If you are thinking about doing machine embroidery and you're not sure, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to do it a lot, I don't know how into it I'm going to be. Any kind of combo machine that has both sewing and embroidery is a really great option for you because it allows you to play around with the embroidery, but then you still also have like a really good sewing machine. I love my Janome for quilting in particular. Okay, so now that we've gotten that part out of the way, I'm going to show y'all how to set up the machine for embroidery. So if you notice right here on the right hand side, we have all these icons. Let me see. Can I zoom in a little bit here for you? Perfect. And then this one right here, you're going to notice it looks like the machine itself, and then it's like the machine with like a piece of lettuce or like a piece of paper in it. That's actually the embroidery hoop. So that's how we tell the machine we are ready to switch over to embroidery. So I'm going to click that button, and it's going to say the embroidery unit is not attached. Do you still want to switch to embroidery mode? Now, at this point, I could just put on my embroidery unit, or I could just go over to the embroidery mode and play around with it. You know, if you just kind of want to test all the buttons and things like that, you're more than welcome to. What I would advise doing is turning the machine off and then putting on your embroidery arm. And I think for the Janome, it doesn't mind if you just stick it on there, but just, you know, for good practice and stuff like that. So you want to turn the machine off right there, and then I'm going to move the camera around so you guys can see better what I'm doing. Okay, so I've moved the camera to the back of the sewing machine, and now, so say this, you just opened up your machine, it's straight out of the box. This is what it's going to look like on the back here. So the first thing you need to do is actually slide this piece off. This is a cover. Mine, I literally just put it on for this video. It always falls off. And so it actually had been living in the back of my trunk for the last 4 months because we just moved here to Texas. But anyway, so then you're going to notice you have this. And then what you really need, the most important part of all, is the embroidery unit, which mine came in like a nice box or a bag, I guess. So I don't know if a new one would come like this. I bought my machine secondhand, and there's a possibility that this was just something someone else had gotten with it, but mine lives in this embroidery bag. And I also have not plugged this in since we moved. So, okay, so here's the whole unit. Mine's a little dusty, so I'm gonna grab a duster really quick and dust it off. Okay, just gonna take this guy, dust it off. Dust it off. Okay, so you're gonna notice, let's see, there's this port here, and then so there's one on this side of the machine as well. And if you're a 90s kid and you had to plug stuff into the back of a TV, or if you're a computer person, you have to plug stuff in the back of a computer, you're just gonna connect those ports. And then it'll kind of just click into place and you're all good. Now what's going to happen is when you switch over to embroidery, it's going to want you to open the arm, and that's going to be this here, and that's so you can see the arm will swing out. And then the machine will know to automatically engage into embroidery mode. And there's more dust over here. So yeah, so right here on this side, that's the lever. Now when you're ready to close the arm, you can. And then what's cool about this machine is you can technically leave this embroidery unit on while you do your sewing. So that is kind of a nice perk. You can just close the arm. So if you're kind of doing a lot of embroidery, but you need to sew a stitch here or there, you do have that capability. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and turn on the machine. I'm just taking y'all on this adventure. Okay, so now I'm going to tell it I'm doing embroidery, so I just click that icon. The carriage arm is not open. Do you still want to switch? So I'm going to go ahead and open that arm again. Don't know why I closed it, but I did. So I'm just going to click it. Okay, and then I'm going to hit OK. So it does have the resume pattern mode on the embroidery side as well, which is really nice. I don't need to resume anything I was doing. And then this is going to be the home screen. Now, before we get into this part of it, which we probably should have done this other step first, but that's okay. I am going to grab the extra little pieces we need to do our embroidery. Alrighty, y'all, grabbed all the extra little pieces that we're going to need to set up the machine embroidery. Situate it here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to change out our bobbin case. Now, my machine came with this secondary bobbin case. This has a yellow dot on it. The one that's normally in there is this guy here. And so I'm switching this one out because this is specifically designed for machine embroidery and bobbin work and stuff like that. I find that my machine really prefers to have this bobbin case in while I'm doing machine embroidery. And I did take the opportunity to go ahead and clean out down here. Oh, see, there's a big old chunk of fuzz right there. I've been doing a lot of quilting on this machine, so definitely if you've been quilting and then now you're ready to do some embroidery, take the opportunity to clean out all the fuzz and the lint because that will cause a lot of issues. And don't forget right here on your feed dogs. If you want to see how I clean this out a little bit and more in depth, I will link one of my mini Janome videos for you. Let's see, look at that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just plop this guy in there. Okay, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch out to the straight stitch needle plate. So this is the one with the 3 single holes. And this just helps prevent, if you're doing embroidery on a delicate fabric, it prevents the fabric from getting chewed up in the opening. It's just, you got to think about the needle. When you're doing machine embroidery, the needle's moving up and down so fast, and the fabric is what's getting moved around, just like with free motion quilting. And so having a straight stitch needle plate is just going to set your machine up for success. So we're just going to pop that guy in there. And again, I'll link down below. Okay, sorry if I got cut off. I had to go answer the door. There was a package delivery. I think I was saying that if you want a more in-depth video on how to change the needle plate out and stuff like that, I will link all of my Janome videos down below. So, okay, so we have the bobbin case in, we have our straight stitch needle plate in, and so the next thing we're going to want is to put on our embroidery foot. And that is going to be the P foot right here. And so we're just going to put that on like we put on all of our other feet. Loosen that up a little bit. You want to tighten it with your finger and then grab your screwdriver and give it a nice little turn towards yourself. Okay. And then you also want to make sure you're using embroidery needles. These embroidery needles are designed to handle the high speeds, thus and the high heat of machine embroidery. They're designed to go in and out of fabric, you know, at those intense speeds and things like that. I also like to go with the chrome finish ones. You can also do like a titanium finish needle, and that's going to help it last longer, and it's going to help it not heat up as fast. So it'll help prevent your threads from shredding or snapping. Okay. So flat to the back. And again, I have a more in-depth video on how to change the needle and all that good stuff. Okay, so the next thing we want to make sure of, we want to make sure that we have the right thread to go in the bobbin. So with machine embroidery, you have to have the right kind of thread. You really do. I mean, with any kind of sewing, but with machine embroidery in particular, in the bobbin, what you want to have, you can see this is a very fine, a very thin thread. This is a 60 weight bobbin thread, and it's called bottom line 60 weight. I like it because it's made in Japan, so it's a nice quality thread. And then different brands of embroidery machines have a preference for different brands of bobbin threads. I know it seems really weird and ridiculous, but you have to think about when these machines are tested out in the manufacturing warehouse, they use a specific brand. And so that's why sometimes they'll be very particular. So my machine likes the bottom line thread, and you might be wondering to yourself, like, it's in white, you know, what if my shirt is pink or something like that? Not to worry, with machine embroidery, it's designed to never show the bobbin thread on the top. So that's why you have to make sure you're using a 60 weight, 100% polyester thread in the bobbin, and then that way you don't ever have to worry about it showing on the top. Okay, so we got that. So you'll just wind a bobbin like you normally would. And I had one here. I don't know where it went. I don't know. So just wind a bobbin with your bobbin thread and then put that in here. And then the next thing you want to do is pick up your pattern. Yes, that's what we're going to do. Okay, so here we have some icons for our machine embroidery. The first is just going to be all of our general designs. So when you click here, the Skyline S9 has some built-in, mine has like some specialty designs from Anna Marie Horner. She's a fabric designer. And so these are some cross-stitch designs. Like, look how pretty that is. It actually comes out really good on the camera too. Okay, so we're gonna hit back really quick. So you can scroll through here, and then up top, like when we went over our screen tutorial, you're gonna notice the page number changes, and you're also gonna notice this number on the top left-hand corner will sometimes change. That is the embroidery hoop size. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's the embroidery hoop size. And so we can go in here. Here's all of our folders of different built-in designs. And as we scroll through, it'll show us what page we're on and things like that. So there's some pretty letters and things like that. There's more cross-stitch designs. So, I mean, there's a ton of designs built into this machine, which is really nice. And just so you know, on this machine as well, you can upload designs onto a USB stick and plug it in. And I will show you how to calibrate the flash drive too. Okay, so there's all of our different, sorry about that. Now say if you want to get back to your main designs, you can hit the home icon and then hit that. Okay, maybe I'll turn the camera. Let me turn the, okay, hopefully that doesn't mess up the whole video, but, okay, so say you're like, how do I get back? Just hit home, and that's your main designs here. Couching design, decorative, favorite, combo. So this definitely has a really good amount of built-in designs, which I really like. And so then if you go back here, let's see. So then you can get just to your alphabet. So you have all these different fonts built in, which, I mean, that's really awesome. So that's why I say this is a really good machine if you're like, you're interested in embroidery, but you're not sure how much you'll use it. It has a decent amount of designs and fonts built into it so that you can really explore machine embroidery without having so much that you feel overwhelmed. So I think this is a really great starter combo machine. So there's all your letters, you know, so you pick what you want. And so up here you have sort of the, if you wanted to have it horizontal or if you want it vertical, depending on what you're going to be embroidering on. Here you have a general size that you can pick, so you can do small letters, large, or medium. It defaults to medium. And then you have capital letters and then lowercase letters. And it's really nice. I like that I can just spell out everything. So if I wanted to spell my name, I could easily do that. If you want to delete a letter, you just hit the trash can and then you can go to lowercase, bing, bang, boom, and it's really easy. You can even say you want it vertical, and then when you hit OK, and then you'll notice, so that's going to move. Sorry, I wanted you to see that. I missed it. So the arm will calibrate itself. The machine's going to prompt you to do things in a certain way to kind of make sure that the machine's going to operate effectively. Okay, so now, we've put in our name, like, because a lot of people want to do monogramming first, or add their names to things. So let's start off with that. So this was the size medium. You can see that's a pretty good size. And everything that we need to kind of know about our design is going to be here on the screen. So up here it says SQ14A, and you're like, what is that? There's a picture of one of the hoops. And I think this is it, actually. Do I have it here? Okay, yeah, I do actually have it right here. So on the hoop itself, SQ14A. Let me give you a bigger shot here. That's what the hoop looks like. And that is the part that's going to go onto the arm. So, okay. So we want to just double check what size hoop it's saying that we can do. It's the time it makes a really big difference is if your hoop is too small for the design. So you want to make sure you have at least this size or bigger handy to stitch this out. And then it says right here, it's 0.8 by 4.2 inches is the actual size of our design. Here it says one color, because I'm just doing one color for my whole name. If you had multiple, a design with multiple colors, it would tell you how many colors there are. And that's important to know because you want to know how many times you're going to be changing the thread. Because with machine embroidery on pretty much any household machine, you're going to be changing the thread for every different color block. Here we have the embroidery speed, which is 400 stitches per minute, which I think is a really great speed. I think this machine can go up to 600 or 800. For most embroidery machines that I've worked with, I keep it at around a 400 or 600, especially for lettering. You kind of want to slow it down a little bit because it's nothing but satin stitching. All right, here it tells you about how long it takes. That's if you're doing one color, you put the color in, and bing, bang, boom, you're good to go. If you have multiple color changes in the design, it'll tell you how many minutes it'll take to stitch out, but it doesn't really take into account if you're like me and you're off doing something else while the machine is stitching out. And then, 5 minutes later, like, oh yeah, I should probably change the color. But that's a pretty good time frame for you. So you're like, do I have time to stitch this before I go pick up my kids? So yeah. That is going to be the thread tension. It says auto +1. And I cannot recall if I have altered this when I was doing some embroidery projects at the end of last year. I usually don't touch the tension unless I need to, but I might have. And then here it's going to tell you the foot, which is our P foot, which is our embroidery foot. And it's telling us what height it's set at. It's set at right now at 0.6 millimeters. So that's how high it's going to hover over our fabric inside of the hoop. Okay, so then over here we have, say I wanted to do multiple colors. So see how it's different colors for A, B, and C. That means it's going to stop itself after each letter and wait for me to change the color. Otherwise, it's just going to be monochrome. This right here is a positioning feature. So what this does, let's say, let me put my hoop on. Let me show you how to put the hoop on then really quickly. Okay, sorry I keep changing positions, but I only have the one camera. So I'm going to show you really quickly how to put the embroidery hoop on. So first things first, you'll notice that this can turn or be straight. You want it straight up and down. And then you're just going to slide it. You're going to make sure you go underneath your foot here. You're going to slide it until you get to this little piece here. So let me zoom in really quick. So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to put this here. And then you're going to turn it. Let me make sure you saw that. So I'm just, see this thing? There's a little piece underneath here. You're just going to line that up. And of course now I can't do it. Okay, there. So then it just kind of clicks into place. And you lock it like that. And you'll know it's in place because this is not going to wiggle around. Okay, so now to the positioning app. So let me just show you one more time. So here's our design on the screen, and then we hit this little, it's like a square with arrows around it. So what I can do is I can ask it to tell me the whereabouts of where my design is going to be. So if I hit this, if I hit that, it moves the hoop. And you're like, it's not moving very far. So now I'm going to hit this one. And it's going to move. Let me go back up. And so you notice it's not going around the entire hoop. It's just going around where my name is going to be at. So it's not, so on the screen it seems like it's huge. But then when you kind of map it out on the hoop, you go, oh, okay, I can see that's not huge, it's not tiny, but it's not huge either. You can also press the center button and it'll take the whole entire path. So this is really good if you're working on like a smaller piece of fabric. Like last Christmas, I did personalized Christmas stockings for some kiddos in my life, some kids of my friends. And so I put their names on them. And so having a tool like that built into the embroidery machine, I did their names on a cuff. So being able to kind of scope out where the name was going to line up made it so I can center it exactly where I wanted it to be on the cuff. And then these other ones I never really use, so I'm not sure what they are. It should say in the instruction manual, but really this is the main one you're going to use. Okay, so then here, so when I hit this one and the arrows light up, it means I can move my design, and it moves very slowly. It only moves a little bit at a time. You'd be better off. Can I move it any more than that? Oh, there's another screen where you can move it a little bit more. Okay. Here I could tell it what foot I want to use. There are some other embroidery feet that you can use. These are, I think they're really for like doing cording and stuff like that, piping and things, depending on what your design is going to look like. If you're going to have a lot of like raised thread, you might want to try these out. I've used that one for most of my embroidery and I've been fine with it. You can definitely experiment as you get more into the embroidery side of things. Okay, so you might be thinking like, that's it, that's all I can do with this design. Well, actually, if you hit that home screen again, so we already went through here. Here's our designs, here are our fonts. Here's sort of like our in-depth editing screen. So I can drag and drop my name wherever I want it to be. I could delete it at this point. Here I can actually resize it. So if I want to go smaller, I can. So I was able to go 20% smaller. And let's see, and then 20% larger. So that's actually a pretty good editing ratio for an embroidery machine. And it makes it really easy Here I could tell it what hoop I'm using. Say I want it to kind of get a better feel for it if I'm using a bigger hoop, a 7 by 7.9 inch, and then you can see my name is much smaller in the field. So it's a really great visual cue for, you know, how large my design is going to be in the hoop. Here we have a color wheel, so I can tell it what color I actually want it to. I can kind of play around with some of the colors, which is really nice. That's really bright. Let's do gray. It's a little bit easier to see on screen. Here I could, so this is cool. You can actually duplicate it / mirror image it all at the same time. So if, you know, if you're doing like, I think a design like a heart or something like that would be really cute like that. Or, you know, if you're really that obsessed with yourself, you could put your name that many times. I don't need it that many times, so I'm just going to delete those extra ones. Okay, and then you saw that I pressed this button here, so it's an arrow going into a folder. So I have a couple different options. I can save my design right here on the machine. It does have it has 4 megabytes of memory, which is actually a pretty decent amount if you consider how large these files are. So I could save it right on the machine if I wanted to, and I could rename it. You know, I could put me. Or I can go in, if I had my USB inserted, I could save it to the flash drive. Okay, for this one, sew all layers without stopping to change colors. So this is a way to take a multicolored design and make it monochromatic. So say it's like one of those flower designs they have built into it, or one of those cross stitch designs, and you just want to do all one color for whatever reason, that would be the icon that you want to choose right there. And then sometimes even like on the words, sometimes it'll still stop itself after each letter even though you're doing the same color. So that's just a good button to press to just make sure it sews everything out for you. Let's see. So here's mirror image right here. Here's other mirror image. Here we can do some word art stuff. I know everybody loves the word art. So you can arch it, which I actually think is really cool. It's a lot of fun. You can space out the letters more. So that's a really fun little tool that you have there. This is your rotation, so you could rotate it if you wanted to. If you want to arch it over maybe like another design, a floral design, you can do that here. So you'll notice that a lot of the icons are pretty straightforward, pretty understandable, pretty intuitive in that regard. So that's pretty nice. You do have another icon here. It's a little grayed out. Basically, it's a picture of a bunch of colors and then 2 spools. So that means if you have, say you have a multicolored floral design, you have a flower that has 3 different colors and you duplicate it. And so now you have two of the same flowers and they have the same 3 colors. But the way that machine embroidery is set up is that it'll stitch out the one flower here first and then it'll come back over and stitch this flower here. Meaning you're gonna have to change, say it's blue, red, yellow. It means you're gonna have to do blue, red, yellow, and then when it goes over here, you're gonna have to do blue, red, yellow. This button right here makes it so that it does both the blues first, then it does reds first, and then it does yellows. So it kind of color blocks everything when you have those multiple colors. Now there are some caveats to that, meaning like if you have the flowers overlapping each other, you're not going to be able to pick that option because of how layering works with machine embroidery. So the designs have to not be touching basically, but it is a nice option for yourself. And then everything else here's just a center. So you want the design in the center, you click that right there. So that's all the basic kind of setup for this machine. You'll also notice here that I do have a Wi-Fi symbol. This machine is Wi-Fi capable. And Janome actually has some embroidery apps. They have some free ones. Oh, and I can download them now because I actually have an iPhone. Because for the longest time, they were only available with Apple products. I don't know if that's still true. Last time I kind of went through their training, that was the case. So You do have some Wi-Fi capabilities, so I'm going to play around with that and see if I can figure it out too for you. Okay, so we have our design. We like the way it looks. We've made all of our changes to it. And so we come back to our main screen. And so it says keep hands clear. Hoop will now move to the center position. So let me turn the key. Okay, so then we hit OK. And then you'll notice it moves. And then right here, it's going to just say, hey, don't forget, this is the hoop we're using. And then hit OK. Down here on the screen, it's going to tell you how many stitches are in the design. So there's 1,745 stitches. You might be thinking to yourself, wow, that's a lot. That's actually not very many for most embroidery designs, to be perfectly honest. And so that's why I say this is a good machine if you're not sure if you're into embroidery, because machine embroidery puts a lot of wear and tear on your machine. Especially when you really get into it and you start doing projects in the hoop, you know, you're doing quilts, and it's a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love machine embroidery. I have the luxury of being able to work on other embroidery machines because of my full-time job. And so I caution you, machine embroidery is very addictive. It's very fun. There are lots of projects out there, lots of design companies. And so if you're already like actually interested in machine embroidery and that's all you want to do, I might recommend getting a standalone embroidery machine, or getting like the Skyline S9 and using it just as an embroidery machine. And then if you love to do quilting as well, like I do, you know, kind of upgrading yourself to maybe the 9450 or the M7. Now, I don't work for Janome at all. I just really do like their machines, especially for quilting. That's my favorite thing that they do. And so I just want to let y'all know that, because I've been working with embroidery machines for a few years, and those are some things that I have learned personally. Okay, so we went off on a tangent there. So there's our stitches. And then this is all of our colors. So if we had multiple colors, there would be multiple designs here. What's also nice is if, you know, maybe I had to walk away for a while, I had to take my hoop off and change the bobbin, or for whatever reason, if I want to skip ahead to a different stitch, I can. And so it'll go to that number one by one. And you'll notice here on the screen, the crosshair moves, which is nice. And then right here, if I know I want stitch 1000, I can plug that in, and it'll actually show me what stitch 1000 is, which is only at the H, which is crazy to think there's only 745 stitches this way. So that's basically our halfway, less than halfway mark, or more than halfway mark. But okay, and then so when you're ready to do the embroidery, you're going to before you put the hoop on, you're going to put your stabilizer and your fabric in. And then you're just going to thread the machine with an embroidery thread. There are different brands of that. Let me grab a couple of spools here for you to show you. So for machine embroidery, you want to make sure you use either 100% polyester. This is Isacord, and this is a 40 weight. So you want a 40 weight, 100% polyester. And usually it should tell you if it's used for machine embroidery. And you'll notice that it has like a little bit of a sheen to it. It's nice and silky smooth. And that's really what you want for embroidery thread, because it's supposed to be decorative. And so you don't want a matte finish one, because it won't look as pretty. And it's going to be harder for your machine to work with as well. So you want 100% polyester, or you could also use 100% rayon. And you're going to see that has like a little bit more of a shine to it as well. Rayon is definitely known for its shininess and things like that. The only thing is you got to be careful. So it really depends on what you're doing. If you're doing an in the hoop project, like you're making a bag or Christmas ornaments or something like that, freestanding lace, I would recommend definitely using the polyester. The polyester is a very strong fiber. It's color fast. It holds up to washings. So if you're going to be embroidering napkins or clothes for people, or especially for like babies or anything that's going to be washed or used a lot, make sure you use the polyester. The rayon is definitely more for the decorative parts, or if you're going to use the rayon, use it for like the bottom layers and things like that. Rayon is a very weak thread. It is very, very weak. And so it's not ideal for something like a zipper bag or, you know, napkins that are going to be washed every week. You know, for Christmas napkins, you could probably get away with it because, you know, you're only going to wash those maybe once a year, twice a year. So 100% polyester, 100% rayon. There are so many different brands out there. I really like the Isacord. I've used that a lot with the polyester. They come on a good size spool, so you get a lot of use out of one spool of that thread. The Madeira rayon is good. It's decent. It's a rayon thread, so you know it's gonna break a lot. They do have a lot of pretty color options. They're just kind of hard to find. Not a lot of dealers carry them. There's Robinson Anton, Wonderfill. I do like Wonderfill a lot. I think even Aurifil makes embroidery thread. Metler. Isacord is actually, I think, an offshoot of the Metler brand, but they also have their own kind of like Metler embroidery thread too. And just know that each machine is different. Some machines are very picky about what embroidery thread they use. So don't go hog wild at first and buy like all 150 colors of the, you know, all 1,000 colors of Isacord, because you want to test it out on your machine first. Because like, even though I have a Janome, not all Janomes like Isacord. And you might be thinking, well, why? Is that a design flaw? Like, is my machine broken? And no, it's because sewing machines are built by people. And each person that puts together all the components and, you know, the tension discs and things like that has a different way of doing it and has a different touch. And so sometimes when one person puts a machine together, it likes different threads because of the way they put it together. And that seems silly, but that's the way it is. So, you know, buy one spool of thread of each brand that you can find in a local quilt shop or sewing store and test it out on your machine. Isacord tends to be the most reliable across all brands, I will say that. But like stuff like Floriani thread is a hit or miss with like every embroidery machine. Some embroidery machines love it, some hate it, and so you got to be careful when you're buying those different brands of thread. Alrighty, also, I think that is everything I wanted to go over. That's really just the basic setup of the Janome Skyline S9 for machine embroidery. I will be doing a video on how to do machine embroidery, like going over stabilizers, which stabilizers with what fabric, and then we'll actually stitch something out on the machine as well. So thank y'all so much for joining me for this Learn Your Sewing Machine video. If you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe down below, and stay tuned for more machine instruction and beginning sewing videos. Thank you. Have a crafty day.